The Fate of Rajoo. From the book, A Tale of Indian Adventure, written by Robert Armitage Sterndale, written in 1877. He wrote, "Under the dappled shade of a sprawling banyan tree, the hunters gathered in a loose circle, their voices low and steady, the air thick with the scent of earth and tension. As they rested from the day's pursuit of the elusive tiger, one of them, the oldest one, leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a tale that had waited for just this moment to be told. He said, 'When I was a boy, with an old Shikari, who never lifted gun to anything but tigers. They were his enemies, and he slept neither day nor night if there was one to be killed. He was quite mad, and the people thought he had a charmed life, but his fate came at last, and he was killed. He was not of a Shikari caste, being a Tali, and he never fired a gun till he was over 30 years of age, but Allah made him a Shikari to avenge the death of his wife. She was young and very handsome, and he would have cut off his right hand to please her. No Tali's wife was ever treated so much like a rance as was this woman. It used to be the joke of the village. Well, Sahib, about 3 kos, or 900 meters, from his village was the stronghold of a very bad man-eating tiger. He had depopulated several villages, and had baffled all the best Shikaris. He lived in a big cave at the end of a rocky ravine, and there was no getting at it except by going straight for it. At the same time, the rocks were so piled about, that an animal like a tiger could enter the ravine some hundreds of paces below, and thread his way through the boulders without being seen. All the traps that had been laid for him had proved useless, and the people said he was a shaitan in the form of a tiger. Well, one afternoon, Rajoo, the Tali's wife, went down to the nullah to bathe, and she never returned. Her distracted husband rushed to the bathing place, and it was but too apparent she had been carried off. There were the footprints of the tiger in the sand, a little further on a grey-colored cloth, now marked with the deeper stains of blood. The man went mad. He would have rushed off to the tiger's cave there, and then had not his friends held him back. For 3 days he raved, and would take no food. At last he got calmer, and people thought he would get over it, and the old women began to cast their eyes about for another wife for him, for Arjun, Tali, was well-to-do in the world according to their notions. But he disappointed them, and the villagers were astonished to hear that he had sold his oil mill and bullocks to a rival Tali, and was going off to Sawani. He could not live in the village, he said. The ghost of Rajoo haunted him. So, to Sawani he went, and when he got there, the half of his money he laid out in the best matchlock he could get. This very matchlock which I carry, I bought it from his people for the price of 2 tigers. Then he laid in a stock of ammunition and went off. Well, after 3 weeks had elapsed, the people of his village were surprised by Arjun walking into the little square in front of the Patel's house, where all the panchayats are held, and where one was being held that day. They hardly recognized him at first, he was so gaunt and wild-looking. Over his shoulder he carried a long matchlock, from his belt depended a powder horn and wallet, and in his hand he held a bundle composed of a fresh tiger skin. Could this be the sleek, respectable Tali, Arjun, who would have fled from the butt of a he-goat? This wild-eyed, long-haired Shikari? His own brethren hardly knew him, but they recognized his voice when he spoke. "My brothers," said he, unrolling the tiger skin and disclosing a ghastly skull and half-gnawed bones, mingled with black tresses and gold and silver ornaments, "these are the bones of Rajoo. Burn him decently, and I will carry the ashes to Nabada Mai." So saying, he stalked into his own house. The needful ceremonies were performed. Arjun silently went through them, shaving his head and distributing alms to the priests, but there was a fire in his eye that the people could not understand. "The spirit of the tiger has entered into him," they said, and the maidens and children shrank from him as he approached. The evening before his departure for the Nabada, he called his friends together at the Panchayat's chabutra or platform. He had arrayed himself again like a Shikari, and the tiger skin bundle was in his hands. "My brothers," commenced he, when all was seated, "I am going to Nabada Mai, and when you will see me again Parmeshwar only knows. But before I go, I will open my mouth. The bones you have are Rajoo's, Her ashes I go to cast into the Great Mother's bosom, and she will be happy. This skin is the skin of her destroyer. You can now till your fields in peace, and sleep in safety by the side of your maize plots. My brothers, when I went to Sawani I bought me this matchlock, and Permeshur has taught me how to use it. I fear no tiger now. They fall before me like the mango at which the boy throws his stick. The ghost of Rajoo called me, and I followed. 7 bullets did I put into my gun, 7 bullets and 8 fingers depth of powder. 3 days, I waited on the edge of the ravine. At last, the ghost of Rajoo beckoned me on. I followed her into the man-eater's cave. It was paved with bones, and I knew the bones of Rajoo. There were the silver anklets, and the gold Hasley necklace I had given her, and the long hair still clinging to the skull. She smiled as I gathered them together in a heap. Yes, said I to myself, in the skin of your destroyer will I carry you back. Hours I waited, but he came not. Food nor drink had passed my lips those 3 days. I thirsted only for vengeance. At last, I heard a heavy breathing and a scrambling noise. The next minute he darkened the mouth of the cave. How his eyes glared as they met mine. But I was not afraid. He was, and crouched, and snarled, but I smote him. My brothers. With 7 balls in his chest and brain I smote him, and took off his skin to wrap my Rajoo's bones in. I have said my say. I will go. So, saying he shouldered his matchlock and turned his back on his native village, and never went near it again.